Welcome. Oops. Thank you for joining us. This is the Town Hall Get to Know broadcast, and we are here this evening. We've got a great guest this evening for you. I want to let you know that this broadcast is brought to you by the LWN Live with Nature Foundation and the LWN Media Productions Company. We are talking tonight with Dr. Steve Tauman, and I saw one of Steve's videos fairly recently, and I was very impressed, and so I reached out to him. I think that he's got some great information that will help us this evening in understanding it's all about healing. It's all about, of course, you know, this show is about making people that are making a positive impact in their communities. Well, Dr. Steve is doing just that. And so we're going to talk to him about how he's doing that. He, like myself, is into a positive transformational change. And so we're going to be talking about transformational change as well. He is a bit eclectic and has an unusual background, though. After 14 years of running a top chiropractic clinic, he became a sought-after corporate entertainer. Well, he went on to write a best-selling book, and it's called Unhypnosis, and he has a series of other critically acclaimed personal growth programs. He now travels the globe, and he's sharing his insight and wisdom on how to have an inspired life while entertaining groups with his mind-boggling hypnosis and mind-reading shows. To date, Dr. Steve has hypnotized over 30,000 people. His fans include sports figures, business leaders, and A-list movie stars. He's been seen on national television and featured in major magazines. He shared the stage with people like Jack Canfield, that would be the Chicken Soup author, as well as the late Zig Ziglar, or one of the foremost motivational, inspirational speakers of our times. And Dr. Steve will share some insights tonight with us about the top characteristics of highly successful people. Please join us now and welcome the best-selling author and international speaker, physician, and mindfulness coach, transformational hypnotist, and really a nice guy, Dr. Steve.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. That introduction made it sound like I can't hold a job.
Sounds like you have a lot of jobs, Dr.
A lot of jobs. Well, there's a lot of work to be done, you know, and if we can do it, we should. I was watching the beautiful graphics at the beginning of your show, and it started out with a kind of cityscape, and that beautiful light kind of making its way up the side of the building and spiraling up through the top. And I was thinking about that as a metaphor for we human beings trying to aspire to something great, and how so many people are like, if that light represented getting to the top, there would be a lot of people at the bottom going, "Oh yeah, I can't get up. I can't even get off the ground, let alone like travel up to the top of the building." So we're always looking for where are we stuck, where are we blocked, what's in the way of us being able to live an inspired life in partnership, as you do, with nature, with
Yes.
the natural order of things. And it's been a lot of fun teasing that out in personal development and in sales and success, and now also in the area of mental and physical health.
Yes, it's all about mind, body, and spirit. And then I know that you enjoy empowering others and helping them to become inspired. And one of the things that I hear you say is it's about people not giving up. And I'd like for you to talk about that, because I know that a lot of people will go after a goal and they will give up. And I think a lot of times they're giving up right before the moment that they are actually maybe going to make a breakthrough. But why don't you talk to us about pushing through and people that are giving up, and they're giving up on their dreams, and why that's not a good thing?
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. I remember years and years ago, I studied under Mark Victor Hansen well before the Chicken Soup for the Soul days. And he used to say, "Whatever you want wants you." I always thought that was a great quote. Whatever you want wants you. And so if you're moving towards something and it always seems to be out of reach. Yeah, there are times when we have to reflect on whether or not what we're looking for is maybe the wrong way to get to the ultimate thing we really do want. But we always have to have the eye on the prize in terms of what do I really, really want? And it usually has to do with how we impact the world, not just ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make a difference. I want to serve others. I want to be able to reach more people. And those who I know who have goals at that level, at that lofty level, are always moving toward them. And sometimes they might give up, so to speak, on a small goal in order to shift gears and move in a slightly different direction, but it's always in that same direction. That's the difference between just a goal and a purpose, right? So we all need a purpose, and our purpose should never be let go. Our life purpose is drawn from who we are and what we've learned, and maybe some odd combination of how it is that we came onto the planet and what we're here to do.
Well, right. That is sometimes difficult for people to define what their purpose is, and it takes a lot of soul searching. But what people are passionate about, I found for myself, that my passion and my purpose came from my pain, came from the painful experiences that I had.
We're going to talk about that for sure.
And I think for a lot of people, I know for myself, that's where it started, was, finally coming to terms with the mistakes that I had made and the situations that I'd put myself into, because my stories may be different than some others, because I take full credit for creating the mess that I had created. But I chose to do something about it. And so that is the important factor, is to define that purpose, isn't it, Dr. Steve?
Absolutely. And, I think what you said is something that you can't say too often, is that our pain becomes kind of the source or the starting point for the definition of who we are, what we want to do, right? So there was a wonderful story called Iron John, and it's an old myth about somebody who gets this terrible wound on his finger, and then he ends up going out into the woods and finding this magical pond, and he dips his finger in this pond, and it turns to gold. And this idea that our wounds are the source of our richness, right? Mm-hmm. Pain, whether it's physical or emotional pain, if you are willing to go deep, if you're willing to face that pain and face the consequences of it and be compassionate toward yourself, there's always something to learn from it. And that is, by all means, the reason that we do develop passion and purpose, because that's what directs us, either towards something or away from something.
Right. Exactly. And there is, that initial instinct of either that fight or flight syndrome that would take place. And what I found is that when we kind of look within ourselves, and acceptance is a big word for me. It all starts with acceptance of my situation, then acceptance of what it was, and then trying to look for that positive impact that took place as a result of that. Because where there's good, I think it's bad, and where there's bad, though, that's what I had to use to become good again. Now, you were a chiropractor for quite a few years. You had a great practice going, and then you made a transformation and you did a shift. Why don't you tell us about that shift and why that happened? What was the epiphany moment for you that you decided, hey, look, I'm not going to continue with chiropractic, that you're going to move in a different direction?
Well, I had a very successful practice, and sometimes we become the prisoner of our success. We don't always know why it's time to move on, but I did have the urge, the nudge that told me I needed to move on and do something new, and I kept on suppressing it. And I would go to seminars and read books and do whatever I could to try to drum up my enthusiasm for the profession. It's a great profession, and I did great work as a chiropractor. And yet at the same time, there was something nudging me on. And the epiphany came when, after going through several rounds of trying to re-trigger my excitement about it, I was in a chiropractic seminar one year. And it was a motivational speaker that was up before us, and he was getting everybody pumped up and excited about chiropractic and how we should be really proud of ourselves. And everybody was jumping up and cheering. And I was in the back of the room thinking, I'm not getting excited. And I want to be excited. I should be excited, but I'm not excited. And sometimes when you recognize that you're kind of flatlining with something, mm-hmm. you really want to take a look deep inside and see, maybe there's something else for you. And you don't always know what the next step is, but sometimes you know that there is one. And so I literally got up in the middle of this chiropractic seminar, and I had a magazine. In the back of the magazine, there was an ad for a company that appraises practices for sale. And I went to a payphone. That was back in the days of payphones. And I called them and I said, hi, I'm selling my practice. That was right in the middle of the seminar. So I was very clear when the right moment came. It was very clear that this is a sign. and I was willing to leap, even though I didn't really know where the net was. But I'm so glad I did, because it led me in a new direction, and it gave me the opportunity to make a big impact on the community and on the world.
Mm-hmm. That's very awesome. And now, how did hypnotism play a role in this? And so you've been on stages and you've worked with companies, what, all over the world, right?
Yes.
Yes. How did that come to fruition? How did that play a part?
Well, I had some exposure to hypnosis in my practice. I had a big sports medicine practice, and in sports medicine, some of the sports psychology that I started to dabble in involved hypnosis, because we're teaching the players essentially self-hypnosis, how to hyper-focus, how to visualize, and all the things that hypnosis is comprised of. And I did all the Tony Robbins firewalk stuff back in the day. And so I had exposure to it. And then after I left chiropractic practice, I started being fascinated by the science of hypnosis. And then I was given an opportunity to study with one of the great hypnotists here in the US, Scott McFall, and got certified as a clinical and stage hypnotist. And that led to this entertainment career where I was performing all over the world. I was the official hypnotist for MTV's Spring Break. Dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. and that in itself, again, led to another set of discoveries, because in being a stage hypnotist, and particularly this was at a time when I was performing in Jamaica for Spring Break, I had an experience. I'd already been learning about meditation and mindfulness, and I realized how important that was to what it was that I was trying to accomplish in my life. Mm-hmm. Clearing away the path and embracing my experience, like you talked about. You have to accept in order to get beyond a challenge. If you can't be accepting, then you're constantly fighting against it. So I was learning this lesson through mindfulness, and I was doing a show in Jamaica, and I had 2,500 kids on the beach watching, and I had a bunch of people on stage being hypnotized. And I took one of my subjects and I said, when you wake up, 3 things are going to happen. I said, number 1, you don't believe you're hypnotized, even though you are. I said, number 2, this is the worst show you've ever seen and you're aggravated with me. And I said, number 3, there's an invisible wall 3 feet in front of you. So I woke everybody up. I said, how's everybody doing? And this guy starts yelling at me. And I said, well, leave. And the guy gets up, he takes 3 steps and he hits the wall. And he's pushing and he can't get through it. And he finally sits back down and he crosses his arms and he starts to pout. It's like, I said, what's the problem? He goes, nothing. I said, are you hypnotized? He goes, no. I said, are you having fun? He says, no. I said, well, then why don't you leave? And he thinks for a minute and he goes, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. and I realized in that moment, this was a powerful recognition, because that's all of us. You see, we all have a place we want to go. Right?
Dr. Steve.
Say it again?
I've been hypnotized on stage before too as well. Mm-hmm. And it was an interesting thing. So is it the power of suggestion here? And you're using this too as well to help people heal. Isn't that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So what I realized in that moment was that this was much more powerful than just, for the entertainment of others, that we are constantly in our lives running up against walls that are comprised of our own subconscious beliefs. And so the work I started to do was about how to peel away those subconscious beliefs, how to wake up from the hypnotic trance that we all live in and be able to direct our minds so we become our own hypnotist, programming our minds in the way that we want it programmed rather than the way that it was programmed by our family and our schools and our churches and the bully next door and by ourselves. And so eventually we start learning how to recognize programming and set it aside or peel it away or knock it down. And that's what is at play, whether I'm working with people who are trying to be more successful and make more money, or right now working with individuals who have chronic pain or anxiety. It's the same phenomenon, just at a different place relative to where they are.
Now, that's you're having good success with that?
Oh yeah, it's fabulous. So for many years I was speaking on stages all over the world as a keynote speaker and sharing this message about these blockages and how we overcome them. And that evolved into my message that I call Bulletproof, my new book Bulletproof, which is that book.
Yes, that's your latest book.
That is. And the objective is for us to all learn how to use our minds in a way that we're bulletproof, that things don't get to us, right? The bullets of life aren't, that are flying all the time, whether it's the bullets of COVID or politics or a difficulty in your job or a difficult relationship. We all need to get really clear on the fact that our circumstances don't determine our inner well-being unless we let them.
Right.
So that's what this book is about, is how do you become master of your own mind?
And I agree. It's all about thinking, isn't it? It's about, but it's about these tapes that play in our subconscious, right? These things that we were trained in, what I refer to, and I believe this is the truth, that is our belief system, our subconscious is. That's the agreements that we've made with ourselves. Some of those agreements, like I found for myself, just weren't true. I mean, I thought they were true most of my life. And then it's like, hey, wow.
Well, it's fascinating when you're coming from a place of unrecognized or unquestioned beliefs, and that is your reality, then you'll constantly find evidence for the beliefs you already have. It's called confirmation bias. So any one situation is filled with millions of bits of information. In this one moment, as you and I are speaking, there are an infinite number of things that you could be concentrating on, an infinite number of ideas floating around, and any one of those could be the source of your attention. But we only carve out a small segment of reality in order to kind of live comfortably and easily. And that segment that we carve out has to be consistent with our pre-existing beliefs. So we'll always find evidence to support the beliefs we have, and we'll always push away evidence for things that we don't already believe. So it takes a lot of diligence and a lot of honesty and a lot of courage to be willing to stand and face your beliefs and question them.
Yes. And that's that soul searching that we were kind of referring to earlier, about taking a hard look at ourselves and then being honest to accept the fact of that's the way we are, and then decide, hey, maybe that's not the way I want to be, and then start working on the process to actually make that transformational change into a new way of thinking.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned that takes consistency.
It takes definite consistency, because think about how many times you have repeated the same mental patterns over and over again without even thinking about it, right? We've dug grooves into our nervous systems. And that means that what's called neuroplasticity. Our nervous system is plastic or flexible, so to speak. And so you've had the same thoughts over and over and over again. It's almost like, imagine yourself walking through a field of grass. Well, the first time you walk through a tall grass, you can turn back, you can't see where you came from because the grass just pops back up again. But if you keep walking that same field over and over again, you start to carve out a path. And then that's the path of least resistance, and that's the path you'll always travel. That's what our brains have done. And if we want to be different, if we want to think differently, we've got to forage out into that field elsewhere and choose a different path that isn't even a path yet, on faith that it will become a path.
That's so true. And I like that analogy, because as you go down that path, you're going to break down that grass and make that pathway. And I use the analogy of, back in the day, I could not see the forest for the trees in front of me, right? I wasn't opening my eyes, and I wasn't using what you referred to, and it's so important, is mindfulness, being aware of what we are thinking and how we are feeling about a particular situation. What I wanted to do is to talk maybe some of these skills that you refer to in your book, Bulletproof. Tell us, and tell the viewers, I should say, and by the way, if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, folks, share this out to your friends, share it to the groups that you belong to. If you're on Facebook, let others know. We're great information tonight, and we're talking about how Dr. Steve Taubman is making a super powerful impact in community. He's traveled all over the world, helping people as well as companies make a positive transformational change to. And as well, we talked a little bit about the medical aspect of it, because he's a doctor. He's helping people with pain. He's helping people with troubles that they've experienced in their life, overcoming anxiety. This is good information, so make sure you tell your friends about this and share this out if you're watching on Facebook. Tell us about the bulletproof and some of the techniques that somebody could use to be able to become more bulletproof, because there's so much negativity coming at us, particularly if you happen to watch the news. My goodness, is creating all this fear, all this anxiety, all this uncertainty. How would somebody deal with that, Dr. Steve?
Step one is you've got to make a commitment or a decision. The decision is such an important one to make, and that is that my circumstances will not determine my level of well-being, my peace, my happiness, my comfort. I'm not going to let those things have any impact on the way I feel at the deepest level of who I am. That's not to say that I can't experience grief or sadness or occasional fear, but that I'm not going to suffer over my suffering. I'm not going to ruminate in it. I'm not going to stay in it, because my ultimate goal is to come from a place of empowerment and happiness. And if you're not choosing that, that is, if you're deciding that I'll decide if I'm happy based on what's going on around me, then you've got literally no power. You are essentially declaring yourself victim of your surroundings. So it sounds easy, or it sounds simple, but most people never do it. Which is attested to by the fact that, if you ask somebody, why are you under stress? They'll say, well, the coronavirus, that's why I'm anxious. No, that's not why you're anxious. You're anxious because you're anxious. The coronavirus is just your latest excuse for what anxiety looks like in your life. But, there are plenty of people, myself included, who have been touched by the virus, have been touched by the experience, have experienced some sadness and grief, but aren't fundamentally anxious or made negative by it, because as long as I'm in that state, I can't be of any great support to anybody else. So that's the first and foremost. If you don't make that decision, then none of the other tools and strategies will make the slightest bit of difference for you. So you're looking at your life against the yardstick of whether or not you're happy. If you're agitated, if you're ruminating, if you're angry, or you're scared all the time, rather than focusing on the things around you that you think are going to make that go away, that's when you've got to recognize, oh, I'm measuring my life against the wrong yardstick. I've got to focus on making myself peaceful. I call it fix the mood before you fix the mess.
Right.
Right.
Are you recommending meditation for that part of it?
Well, we're getting there. You see that the first step, making the decision, is the first step. The second step is choosing to live a life that's got certain attributes to it: discipline, integrity, responsibility. I call that part of the formula clean up your act. Right? If your life is in disarray, if you're a mess, if you're, and you're messy, and you're not holding yourself to a high standard in terms of like acting with character, then there's, again, very little likelihood that you're going to rise above this morass of negativity. And you're not going to be bulletproof because you're constantly kind of trying to shift away from things. You never have a firm foundation. Right. So your foundation is your integrity, your dignity, your responsibility, your accountability, and your morality. Right. Being a good person.
Right.
So that's your second important action step. Your third is where meditation and mindfulness come in, which is learning how to sharpen your focus. You see, what the biggest problem for most Americans in particular, and Westerners in particular, is that we have very little capacity to focus, and it's getting worse every year. We are, swept up by every form of entertainment there is: Facebook, blog posts, the internet, TV, et cetera, and we're constantly allowing ourselves to be distracted rather than being able to be present, be here and now. And if you can't be present, the consequences are many, among which are high stress, lots and lots of negativity, and you've got absolutely no resilience whatsoever. So you need to strengthen your focus muscles, and we do that through meditation, among other things. But that's probably your most effective and quickest way to gain deep mastery over your own focus.
I agree 100%. This is some really powerful stuff. I'm just going to remind everybody, if you happen to be watching on Facebook, please share this out. Let your friends know. There is a ton of good information Dr. Steve I'll tell you, you are super dynamic. I want you, before we get to the Relief Rocket, I know that this is a project that you're working on currently. It's just getting ready to launch, as a matter of fact. I want you to talk, though. You've been doing the Ouch Doctors, and I would like for you to tell the viewers about the Ouch Doctors.
Well, that was a really fun evolution of my work and the application of what I already know how to do, right? So like all of us, we have had to face the fact that change is inevitable, right? We're living in a world that requires us to change, sometimes a new job, sometimes a new behavior that helps us to be healthy, whatever it is. And some people don't react very well to change, right? They don't like it at all. And for me, I believe that that change is an opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves and to sort of refocus our energy in a new way. So for me, I realized I'm not on the road anymore, right? I can't be out on stages and doing keynotes all over the country. I could do live events online the way we're doing right now, and I do a lot of these, probably a few times a week. But it's not something that it's not something that I'm making a living doing. This is more for the joy of doing it, or just to make sure people know I still exist or whatever. But in the meantime, I've got all these philosophies and skills that have application in a lot of different ways, right? So one of those ways, one of the impacts of learning about mindfulness and learning about hypnosis and learning about how to control the content of your own mind is that it can have a direct bearing on how you interact with disease and pain. Lots and lots of people, as you know, are running around in chronic pain. It's something like 25% of Americans, 20 to 25%, something like 60 million people are in chronic pain. And then the opioid crisis, and many people are over-medicated, they're depressed. I work with lots of people with fibromyalgia. There's so much misinformation about how disease happens, how pain happens, what is the neurology of pain, that people are clueless and they're suffering as a result. So I started teaching people this concept that if you want to master your experience of pain, if you want to get out of pain without drugs, without surgery, well, the first thing you need to know is that you actually have the power in your own brain to redirect the way your focus works to change your experience of pain. You can literally stop pain in its tracks if you know how. And I've done this with thousands of people. And part of it involves the shifting perspective about pain, where you've got to take it from being something that you really hate, right? I'm really averse to this. I really resist pain. Like you were talking about acceptance, you've got to turn it into something you can accept and embrace. Like the Navy SEALs say, embrace the suck. Right.
Well, it's interesting you said perspective too. So it's about the perspective, and I think it's about the words that we'll use too, and how we need to be careful about the words that we use. We don't want to say, yeah, I'm just in a ton of pain. I'm always there. It really sucks. Versus
telling me,
I feel good. Even if you don't, tell yourself you feel good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're incredible at this over exaggerating our experience, right? This is killing me. Oh my God, it's freezing. No, it's not freezing. No, it's not killing you. Stop saying that, because exaggeration is programming. When you exaggerate, you're telling your subconscious mind how to react to the experience you're having. And if you're telling your subconscious mind that it's killing you, your subconscious mind says, sure, we can make it kill you, no problem.
Right.
So we've got to really erase that. So now, fast forward, I've been doing this kind of work. One day I'm reading a blog post from a guy who's got a blog post called Fun with Pain. And I thought, that's awesome. Fun with Pain. What a great title. Because, we're saying, look at it differently. Play with it. Play with your experience of it, right? So I looked up the guy who wrote that blog post, Fun with Pain, and his name is Tim Warren, Dr. Tim Warren, who also happens to be a retired chiropractor, turned mindset guy. And he actually knew me. He knew my work. He'd seen me speak at a chiropractic event, a national chiropractic event some years earlier. So we had kind of a mutual appreciation for one another. And we decided to team up. So we started this thing called the Ouch Doctors. And we started it not long ago. This is only a couple months now. We've already produced 30 or 29 actually YouTube episodes of our show, New Thinking About Old Pain. So if your viewers would like to watch some of those snippets, new thinking, meaning, the new way we should be looking at pain, about old pain, meaning chronic pain, long-term pain, long-lasting pain. And we've got a lot to share about that in terms of how to apply the science of hypnosis, or the science of mindfulness, or the science of nutrition, or there are so many things that we can do that have an impact on it without having to resort to external means.
Yes.
So we've been doing that. And now that's how Relief Rocket came about, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Okay. That's so yes, it was, and these are the types of things that you're doing, and I know that you do this, and this is for free. You're providing pay it forward information like we are tonight for our viewers to be able to share with others and let them know that there is help. And then of course you're available for people to be able to hire and get more specific about a particular situation for them as well. And that's the beautiful part of it. Now, what was that? I guess maybe I'm backing up a half a second because I'm so impressed that here we are talking now about Relief Rocket, but let me back up for half a second. I just want to let the viewers know, what was the thing that made you decide that this is the way you wanted to go?
In terms of spending more time on the physical side of things, is that what you're asking about?
Yes. I know we kind of talked about that transformation from chiropractic into what you're doing, but I want to know that, like, was it something from your past that you decided, hey, look, this is really what I want to do? Chiropractic certainly helps a lot of people. It does. But you wanted to get more to the core of things. What was that turning point? Why did you decide to get more serious about the thinking aspect of it?
I think we all do what we do because we are trying to learn something for ourselves, and that's how it often starts, and that's how it started for me. I grew up with anxiety and depression and low self-esteem, and I had to learn how to reclaim my mind and my emotions because they were getting the best of me. So I did a lot of studying and a lot of research, and everything from Western medicine and neurology to Eastern philosophy and mindfulness and meditation trainings and whatnot, and bringing it all together and realizing that when you find that right combination, which can take years, you find that right combination, that you start to understand that you can change how you feel about yourself. That's when my life started to blossom, and that's when I started to feel this is my real mission. It's great to get people, give people flexibility as a chiropractor and do some of the work for the physical, but the mental and the emotional ultimately are so much more important because they actually trigger the physical too. Dr. Sarno, who wrote this book, Healing Back Pain, was was kind of a guru in the world of back pain, and he said almost all back pain comes from repressed emotions, that we express our emotional pain through our physical body because it's too painful to express it emotionally. And if you don't do the mindfulness work, and if you're unwilling to face yourself and learn who you are and sit comfortably with the uncomfortable, then you're constantly going to be a victim to not only your emotions but to your physical problems as well. So that's where I became fascinated by this, and I started learning more about neurology, and then about something called psychoneuroimmunology, which is a 45-year-old study of how your thoughts can create illness in your body. And that's a pretty wild thing. There's millions and millions of, I may be exaggerating, thousands of experiments in that area, and that demonstrate that relationship. So that's where, what I've wanted to spend a lot of time doing is guiding people to empowerment.
It's so admirable, and that's, I think, what attracted me to getting to know you better, and then wanting the viewers to get to know you better as well.
Thanks, I appreciate that. It's great to be here. And I do appreciate who you are and what you do, and it matters to me because the foundation of what I've always done, it's holistic, right? And holistic is every little piece is, you know, a reflection of every big piece. And so that, like with nature, you know, if you damage this in nature, you're damaging this. Everything's related to everything else.
Yes, it is all interrelated, exactly, and that's why I like the concept of the oneness, you know, because I believe that we all are connected. Because, like you said, one thing affects the other. It's kind of like that when you throw the rock out in the lake, and you might have just thrown a rock, but then there's the ripples, and the ripples go all the way to the shore, and they keep on going, and it's pretty cool. And it is about thought, and it is about intentions, and about making that positive transformational change. That's what I know that both of us share in common, is that we just want to share that with people, to let them know that, you know, we can have dark moments, and we can have a lot of stress and anxiety, but there's an opportunity for us, if we put the right healthy habits together and nurture our mind, body, and soul, that we can really have a higher quality of life. And that's really what I try and do. And I can tell that's what you're all about. And that's why I asked you to be here, Dr. Steve. I really appreciate that. Now, what I'd like to do here for just a moment is to go to a quick commercial, and then we will be right back. Let me just do that here for us, and we'll be right back in a moment.
We let our bathtub go too long. It had rust in it. It had deep pitting in it. There were chips. I, quite frankly, thought it was unrepairable.
Total Coatings is a family-owned and operated bathtub and shower refinishing company. We've been around since 2006, but we use a exclusive non-toxic porcelain coating that was developed over 60 years ago by a franchise in California. So the product is very well established. We refinish bathtubs, showers, wall tile, countertops, and even sinks. Customers want to know what makes our product different, and that's, of course, the exclusive non-toxic porcelain. We also don't acid etch the surface, so you don't have to leave your home because of noxious fumes.
I was completely and utterly shocked. It looked like a brand new bathtub. I would recommend Total Coatings to anybody.
All righty. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you. All right. Back to Dr. Steve. Thank you again, Dr. Steve. And thank you, everybody who's taking time to come and watch us this evening. We appreciate you very much. We are talking about your health. We're talking about making a positive impact in our communities, and that's why we're on the show tonight. This is brought to you by the LWN Live with Nature Foundation. We are a platform for positive transformational change, and we're talking about that tonight with Dr. Steve. Now, we were talking about your show, The Ouch Doctors, and that led to Relief Rocket. Now, this is a brand new program. Tell us about this new program and the Relief Rocket and that's impact. What's this all about?
It's so exciting. We're so thrilled about this, because one of the things that we realize is that chronic pain is and it's pandemic, right? It's as pandemic as a pandemic we're in right now.
Right.
It's so widespread, and so many people are stuck taking opioids and doing just the wrong thing and suffering needlessly. And we believe that we can make an impact, and that we could make enough of an impact quickly enough by teaching a few of the basic skills that we coach our clients on, that we can have people suddenly realize, wow, I'm not a victim of this. I can find my way out of this. So we created this program. It's called Relief Rocket, and it's the fastest, safest way to blast through your pain. And it involves no drugs, no equipment, no doctors, no deductibles. It's no anxiety. It's really simply learning how to use your mind more effectively, so that when you experience pain, you know what to do with it. You know precisely how to use your mind to shift it. It's like having a Jedi mind trick. And so it's got 5 modules, like a little mini course. It's all entirely online. The first module is a 5-step process that takes about 3 minutes once you learn how to do it. and you could stop pain dead in its tracks. I had, in fact, yesterday I was walking my dog Woody, and we were in the woods, and he needs to get a ramp because he's getting old and can't jump up on the bed anymore. And there was a wooden ramp leaning up against a tree in the woods, and I thought, let me take a look at that. I pulled back on it, didn't realize there were two 4x8s leaning against it at the bottom, and one of them came down and smacked the bottom of my shin. And I mean, hard, like, like I wasn't sure if I broke it. I saw stars.
Oh,
and
boy.
I closed my eyes and I went through the 5-step process, and in about less than a minute and a half, my pain was entirely gone.
Wow.
And it did not swell. We have the power to do that. Our minds can control inflammation and pain, and we'll teach you how to do it. So that's the first part of the program.
That's exciting. That's very exciting.
It's so exciting. It's so powerful. And, and our mission is, with this one product, is not to like change your entire life and and have you change everything that you're eating and change your exercise and all the stuff in a bigger program that we might do. It's simply, let's give you some control over your experience of pain. So one of the modules gives you a simple checklist of certain foods that are pro-inflammatory, that cause you to inflame, and other foods that are anti-inflammatory, that help you get rid of inflammation. So it's just a quick thing to know, right? When you go to the supermarket, let me get that instead of that. Very helpful. One of the modules is a guided meditation, puts you into a visualization process that you can use to de-stress and to relax and to let go of the tension that builds up inside of us when we're in chronic pain. And one of the parts of it I'm very excited about is I teach a self-hypnosis process, and I give you a template. So when you fill in the template with your individual needs and concerns, you can then record the whole thing and listen to it. I even give you music for it, and you can listen to it in the evening before you go to sleep, and you can hypnotize yourself out of pain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that a deep state of meditation or different?
It depends on your, it is meditation, right?
Okay.
Meditation and hypnosis are very similar. Hypnosis is essentially meditation plus suggestion. So we're putting you into a meditative state, but we're giving you the opportunity, the ability, and the understanding of how to make the proper suggestions in the right language that your subconscious mind understands. So when you say these words, your subconscious mind says, okay, got it, I'll do that. So it's very powerful. The objective is to repeat it so that it goes deeper and deeper, because the longer you do it, the deeper it goes. But most people have some shift or change very early in the process, and it's encouraging. Right? It's a very encouraging experience.
So you're just launching this program. I think you are having like an open house type of thing, or an opportunity to get some information about it. Can you tell us about that? So
we're doing our virtual launch party on Thursday at noon Eastern time. And we'll have some special guests come and join us. I've got a lot of friends in the speaking industry, some of whom you guys might know. And we'll pop in and say hi, and just, we'll have a little celebration, and we'll give away a few free gifts. And we've got an initial offer for that product. That product should be at least a few $100s. We're selling it as the initial offer for $37.
Wow.
So we just wanted to get it out there. We wanted people to get this, use it, share it with others, and no better way to do that than to just lower the bar on the money and make it something people will grab a hold of and try out for themselves.
Excellent. Now we have a banner up there where you can reach out to Dr. Steve about this. We've got his website as well as the reliefrocket.com, and that's the program that we're talking about here. Now, if you have a question, you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can ask comments or ask questions, excuse me, or if you have a comment, you can put it in the comments. I forgot to mention that earlier, because this is the opportunity for an interactive broadcast as well. So if you've got something that you want to say, or you've got a question for Dr. Steve, feel free to put that in the comments. We've got a little bit more time here left.
May I just say one other thing real quick, is that if you're interested in joining us for the launch party, getting the free gifts and have a little fun with us at noon, you can find it on the Ouch Doctors Facebook page. So just find the Ouch Doctors Facebook page, and that's where we'll be broadcasting.
Okay, we're going to get that into the comments here so that people can look that up. That's really awesome. I'm very excited for you. I believe that mindset is everything, and what we tell ourselves in what we say is who we are, and how it's so important to be careful of the things that we say. The ability, like you're talking about, you were talking about, you can talk yourself out of pain, literally. Now, people can also talk themselves into sickness, and you talked about that as well. And so people can, and maybe you'll explain that a little bit further, how people maybe can prevent getting sicker by the things that they might say to themselves.
Well, that's why going back to meditation is so important, because it's a practice of quieting your mind. And with a quiet mind, you recognize the voices in your head as being other than yourself, right? If you're constantly listening to the voices in your head without having any separation from them, then you're the victim of those voices. You're just, just like, remember Popeye when the smoke from the spinach would come along, it would grab him, it would pull him along. Right? That's what your thoughts are doing. They're just kind of pulling you along, and you don't even stop and realize that you actually have a choice about it. But when you start doing mindfulness practices, you start seeing, oh, look at me thinking that way. And now you start to have a little bit more mastery over where you go.
Yes. Now, I'm going to just go back. I know that we talked about this, but I want to reiterate this. And this is about you're really big on about not giving up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So going back to resilience. So, the book Bulletproof is about being resilient, and resilience basically means being able to stay the course without things knocking you off course. And so if you're trying to get somewhere, you're trying to become more successful, you want to be healthier, you want to be happier, you want to be less anxious. All of those things are movements from where you are into a new state of consciousness. And as you move towards it, the obstacles that you face along the way, the ones that are knocking you off balance, have remedies. And that's what we do, is we teach you how to experience these things as they're coming at you. Because if you realize that you're in advance, for example, I don't know how many of you set New Year's resolutions. A lot of people do that. And then by January 18th, forget it. They're not doing it anymore. And if you were to follow the trajectory of that day by day, look at yourself. It's like, I'm so enthusiastic. I'm so excited. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to quit smoking. I want to start doing exercise. And you really mean it. And you think that enthusiasm is going to get you all the way where you want to go. And that's what we think is going to get us to our goal, is I'm going to stay enthusiastic. I'm going to stay motivated. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You will not stay as enthusiastic and motivated now, or in 3 weeks, as you are right now. So you need a different fuel to keep you moving than just the motivation. And part of that is what we call knowledge therapy. You need to know in advance what to expect. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to be really enthusiastic. And then one day I'm going to wake up and say to myself, what's the point? Never mind. And you'll have that kind of blasé attitude towards it. That's your ego trying to keep you in a box.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's doing. It's trying to keep you in a box, and it's doing it whatever way it can, because it's sneaky, and its entire job is to keep status quo. So if you want to keep going, you want to keep functioning, you want to keep succeeding, you've got to sort of know in advance what the obstacles are. And you can learn those things through coaching. I'm a coach, and there are a lot of people out there who can coach you in understanding what your individual recipe is for stopping yourself along the way.
How is ego? How does ego prevent somebody from following through?
Because your ego will always try to tell you that whatever you're thinking right now is vitally important. And so you'll get a little idea, and then you'll hold on to it like a dog with a bone. While the whole world goes by, you were planning on going on this wonderful trip, but there's a bone, and you got to grab it, and you can't let it go. And it's the old monkey trap. You remember, the story of the monkey trap? The way they would catch monkeys in the jungles of Southeast Asia is they'd get a box, they'd stick a banana in the box, they'd put a hole in the box about yay big. The monkey could put its hand in the box to grab the banana, but then he couldn't bring his hand out of the box with the banana in his hand because the fist was too big to get out. And the monkey would not let go of the banana. And they would just come along and take the monkey, right? The monkey, at any moment, the monkey could just let it go and go on with its life. But it wouldn't. And that's us. We do that all the time. So if you want to persist, if you want to move toward a goal, be aware of the monkey traps along the way. What are you holding on to? What are you not letting go of? What are you allowing your focus to be drawn to? What are you running from? Right? And when you start getting the knowledge therapy, when you start realizing, oh, when this happens, I do this, I run from that, or I get angry when that happens, or I get bored when that happens, then you start to build your strategy, right? It's your battle plan. And having a battle plan is really important if you're going into battle. You can't wing it.
The planning part of it will help you to be able to then know which action steps to take. Wouldn't that be correct?
Absolutely. I used to fly a plane, and you'd have a checklist. It was on the visor. You'd pull the visor down. You have a checklist, and there's an emergency checklist. So if anything ever happens, you're flying and something goes wrong, you pull down the visor and you start going through the checklist one by one, and you do everything on the checklist, because you can't rely on your mind, especially when you're emotional, to make the right decisions. And I had that experience. I was flying at something like 10,000 feet over Buffalo, New York, and I hit a weather front, and there was such thickness in the clouds and such moisture that it got into my engine and it put out my engine.
Oh no!
10,000 feet with zero visibility, and my plane was starting to go down. And I didn't panic. I pulled down the visor. I went through each step along the way, and one of the steps required me to close the pitot tube cover, which I did, and the engine came back on. So these are the things we're talking about. You've got to be prepared. You can't, think your enthusiasm is going to get you there.
And that takes practice.
It takes practice.
Yes, it takes practice. Absolutely, it does. Now, what I'd like you to do is to share. I know that some of the viewers are really inspired by the things that you've been telling us about, that they want to become the leader of their own life, as well as maybe leaders for other people, and be that role model. What would you suggest to others, and by describing what you feel a good leader is?
Well, a good leader realizes that they're not perfect, and a good leader realizes that they can expect themselves to not always take the high road, but knowing that allows them to do it more often. So a good leader is compassionate toward others because they know themselves that they're not perfect. A good leader has vision. Where is it you're trying to go? Be clear about that. And this is, again, there's a monkey trap. If you're a good leader, it means you see the vision and you're not getting so thrown off course by maybe people who aren't following the vision to the nth degree that you lose your ability to stay enthusiastic and positive. Got to be positive, right? So you got to keep on keeping on, keep that vision. And I believe that a good leader is a mindful leader. So the best leaders I know, all the best leaders I know, meditate or do some kind of mindfulness practice. It's essential just to dissipate stress, just to dissipate negativity, and to bring yourself back into the present moment where all of your resources live. So if